The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, police officers now required to drive ambulances? Well, it's happening on the Family Islands. Tonight, Minister of Health, Dr. Michael Darville explains, and former National Security Minister Marvin Dame says it's a bad idea as the police is already stretched too thin. Also tonight, residents in Mayaguana say they're tired of being ignored. See how residents took tar and other materials to fill potholes yesterday. Also tonight, a sitting member of parliament is facing allegations of sex with an underage girl. We hear from him and his statement that he intends to run again. It's all straight ahead tonight. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, tonight, Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville is defending a new initiative that calls for the deployment of police officers to drive ambulances on the Family Islands, calling it a short-term fix and not a burden on law enforcement. His response comes after former National Security Minister Marvin Dames blasted the move, calling the plan short-sighted and ineffective. The program, launched by the Public Hospitals Authority in partnership with the Ministry of Health and the police force, was designed to fill urgent gaps in emergency transport on the Out Islands.
We've reached out to the Royal Bahamas Police Force to help us through an emergency situation. We are activating our medium and long-term plan, and that is to train more EMTs. As a matter of fact, we have a program that's about to start very shortly to train an additional 24 EMTs in the country. And we are hopeful and mindful that they would pass the international exam and be deployed to the Family Islands and to support the services here in New Providence and Grand Bahama. And so our reaching out to the Royal Bahamas Police Force is just for an emergency situation to fill a gap temporarily while the training is completed for EMT specialists throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Emergency situations. What is happening is our ambulances are now being deployed in the Family Islands, and the training for the EMTs are not complete. And so in the interim, the Royal Bahamas Police Force will assist us, who will drive the ambulance, where our medical staff and doctors will be in the back of the ambulance to provide these emergency services to avoid this process of individuals in the Family Islands not have access to proper ground transportation that is coordinated with our air transportation. And so this is only a temporary measure. We're not stretching the Royal Bahamas Police Force as being proclaimed by the former minister. It's an emergency situation, and they are utilized in emergency situations.
Well, Dr. Darville clarified that with the distribution of ambulances to the Family Islands, such as Eleuthera, Cat Island, Andros and Abaco, it's a must that persons are there who are equipped to drive the vehicles during dire circumstances. Well, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to hear from the man himself who actually slammed the government on this decision. Joining me this evening is former Minister of National Security Marvin Dames, who himself is a former Deputy Commissioner of Police as well. And so good evening to you, Mr. Dames. It's good to have you here. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Shanique. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, well, I want to start by this and keep it right there, y'all. But I want to know if the police are only going to be driving because there's going to be medical staff in the back of the ambulance to step out immediately when this ambulance reaches the scene to respond to this emergency. Then why can't just any responsible citizen be trained to man the ambulance, to drive it where it needs to go, and the medical professionals get out and do what they have to do?
You tell me. You tell me. I just listened to the minister's comments, and I'm even more disturbed. Hopeful and mindful is not an effective strategy. And coming from a minister of government, that is very concerning. What is the short term? How do you define that? We must be mindful that the police is also an emergency service. And like you said, why couldn't we get a group of Bahamians in need of jobs and train them and prepare them and make them drivers? Why tap into an emergency service unless something has changed drastically? But not from my vantage point, because everyone can see that the police force continues to suffer significant shortage. And one of the reasons why we recruit on the Family Islands and tap into the regular citizens to become members of the police reserves is to mitigate the shortage that exists, especially on those Family Islands. And now to say that you're gonna call on police officers, all right, to be a part of the emergency services, let's bear in mind that if you have a traffic accident, that if you have a shooting, that if you have a stabbing, you need the medical services and you need the police services, right?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? The police officer who's driving the vehicle now has to pause and sit and take a statement? Come on. The real question we need to be asking ourselves is, how did we get here?
How did we
and
get
no
here?
one's answering that.
How did we get here?
Okay? Because to me, it seems to me that planning and execution is the problem.
It seems also that there's a shortage of trained EMTs. Was there a shortage of EMTs during the former administration?
Well, we never had these kinds of problems. Now, whether there was a shortage or not,
or properly
that
trained,
never
something.
really identified itself. But if you're going to order a fleet of ambulances, then one should prepare that before those ambulances arrive, that you have the personnel to equip, all right, and to equip those ambulances so that you don't have a break or a pause in your execution. But it seems to me that we have a big problem here. When we're referring to our emergency services, that's very concerning and alarming. And to try to justify the use of police officers to drive ambulances, and some of these officers will probably be making $30,000, $40,000 a year sitting behind the ambulances when they are not performing the duties that they took an oath to perform, is very concerning.
Well, let's talk
We don't have that luxury in this country.
We don't, because
Okay?
listen, later in tonight's show, you will hear of yet another homicide that took place. Of course, it happened here in New Providence, but many Family Islands are too experiencing an uptick in
but
violent
as Bahamians,
crime. Yeah.
we should not sit back and accept that, right? As an answer that we can all live with in this country. I mean, that's very alarming to me.
Well, let's just talk about, I asked you how long was this shortage of EMTs, properly trained EMTs in existence. You cannot say. Obviously, the Family Island seems depleted of any, that they have to ask police officers to step in and perform those duties. But let's go back to your area of expertise. What is wrong with this move? You've already talked about that, but the fact that these officers, and you explained it very vividly, an officer who is in charge of securing a crime scene, the first responders on any crime scene, that they now have to pull up in an ambulance, quickly park it to the side, and then go and try cordon off the area and put on the police hat. Explain how that all...
But where do you draw the line? And it seems to me that, I mean, you can have press conferences and you can say that we're preparing training and this is the first cohort and we're preparing another group. But where do you draw the line? And the lines are extremely blurred. And so now if you have a mass casualty scene, how many police officers do you need? How many ambulances do you need? How does that impact the police response? You know, these are all, I mean, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to really figure this out. These are all common sense issues, all right?
Let's talk about, you mentioned that the police force is already stretched thin, and this is now stretching them even more thin. I'm putting a strain on the limited resources, human resources and others, especially on family islands. As far as you were able to say, and I'm sure you still have insight with what's happening in the police force as it relates to various districts, what is the state of officers? And I know there have been issues even recently with reservists talking about their issues. What is the issue in terms of manpower on these various islands, these far-flung islands, to help serve the people?
Well, I mean, let's kind of understand it from this point. Many of these islands are much larger than New Providence, right? And the reason why, from time immemorial, when the police recruit and when the police go in search of reserve officers, right, emphasis are placed on family islands because you need to supplement, right, the officers who are working on those islands. My father once worked during the 60s on the islands. And the role of a police officer on the islands is very much different from the role of a police officer in the capital or Grand Bahama, because that individual...
So maybe that is why Dr. Darville is saying, listen,
we're
because that
talking
role
about
is...
emergency services.
Because that role is different, let the police drive the ambulance.
So what do we say? When the police officer now is going to get his adequate rest, because he's not only dealing with traffic matters, he or she is not only dealing with domestic disputes, causing harm, stealing, and things of that nature. They're also dealing with community policing. They're also speaking in schools. They're also mitigating issues at places of employment and all over, right? And so you're going to add another layer of complexity, because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So, all right? So you're at your station now, all right? The ambulance and the EMT is at the medical center, all right? There's call for services now. You're at the station, and maybe you're in there yourself because somebody else is on patrol. Mm-hmm. What do? Well, I need some help. So you have to lock up the station now and jump in the ambulance. See, we act as if we know how various departments function, all right? And I think that's a mistake. The government needs, and this is where many governments get themselves in problems, all right? You need to let the people that you empower, that you give the job, in this case the commissioner and the deputy commissioners and everything else, run their department. When you start to impose upon these departments...
Do you think that maybe the commissioner and her executive team were forced into this knowing full well?
I don't know.
Knowing full well, though, from a policing standpoint, that they can ill afford to have this happen?
The police, for the most part, they're going to always comply. When you're dealing with services like the police force, the defense force, and law enforcement agencies, they're going to always comply, all right? Now, some will hold their ground and say, no, wait a minute. You say short term, define that for me. Mm-hmm. How do we define short term? Mm-hmm. It sounds good in a press conference, right? But how do you define it in reality? All right? And where there are no parameters as to how this thing ought to work.
Has this happened in any
further exacerbates the problem.
Has this happened, that you can say, anywhere else in the region?
Not that I know
police officers have to step in
not
and
that I
perform
know of.
This
not that
duty.
I know of.
How does this compromise the emergency response on vulnerable family islands already?
It poses a significant risk, and especially when you don't have defined periods of engagement. When something starts versus when something stops. When you can't define that, having loose conversation and press conferences doesn't solve the problem, okay? Because there's those people out there in the field who will have to respond and engage. And like I said before, if you're presented with a mass casualty situation now, All right? How do you deal with that? Because you have two very vital emergency services in mass casualty: the police and the medical. So we need some of your police officers to drive, or else these vehicles aren't moving. You know, but I've been hearing more concerning issues.
Like?
For example, like the ambulances that the government would have acquired are standard shifts, and not very many people can drive standard shifts.
So is that why
Okay.
the EMTs...
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but that's a real question that we need to be asking ourselves. And so how did we end up with standard shifts, ambulances, right? And who made that recommendation? Knowing the size of our islands, knowing the congestions and everything else that entails, and for the most part, I've never heard of the PHA having standard shift ambulances.
I've not heard of
you know, are these
standard shift
ambulances now
ambulances.
standard shifts? Because I've even heard in some quarters too where the government was seeking to acquire standard shift fire appliances. So who are you engaging? The experts, or you making these decisions in a vacuum? And so that's even more alarming and concerning. But as Bahamians, we have to stand up now and hold our governments accountable. We can't sit back and take these press conferences dressing things up, knowing that it ain't what it is. What is the backstory behind this? How did we get to this point where we need to train police officers to drive ambulances? How did we get here? Whose failings? Who ought to be held accountable?
I'll tell you this on that question, and this is just me taking the liberty of a talk show host and a media veteran. That part is the shortcoming of everybody, because it appears as though Bahamians are quite coming up lacking and wanting in terms of being sufficiently skilled to perform certain duties. But it's no excuse. We should have sufficient EMTs to be able to man ambulances, not only here in New Providence, but in the Family Islands and wherever else they are needed in this nation.
So if we have a serious problem today, should we be concerned?
Extremely, evidently.
The minister is telling us that we ought to be. But we don't have no timelines on the medium term nor the long term training, not even the short term training.
Yeah.
Because in the short term, we're training police officers who should be out there keeping us safe.
Now, when the drivers traditionally of ambulances are EMTs, are police officers trained in that regard?
We have, I know in the past, and I can speak to that, we normally have a sick bay where a number of police officers are attached who are trained EMTs, but that's a handful. Whether that still exists, I don't know.
So they
but
just
are
anybody
not
just
trained.
driving. This is what.
But
this
not
is.
every police officer is a professional driver. Okay. All right. And so, because a man or woman wears a uniform, you deem them a driving expert. It's another problematic
to speed on these Family Island roads
situation.
To trying to get to somewhere in a reasonable time. Yeah. I tell you, it's a lot of questions still behind this decision, and I would hope that I'm able to get an authority to come and join me here on the show to be able to further discuss this and assure the Bahamian people, particularly residents on the Family Islands, of what it is. Yeah. Again, like you say, the short term, the medium term, the long term plans for this program, and to outfit the necessary ambulances with proper EMTs.
Listen, we all want our people to be safe. We all want the best and the best services for our people. Okay, that's not my concern. That's not what I'm arguing here. All right, and we need a solution to this problem. It's in all of our interest that we do have a solution to this problem.
Yeah.
But the way the government is going about it, unfortunately, is very concerning and alarming.
Former Minister of National Security Marvin Daines, speaking, of course, also former Deputy Commissioner of Police Marvin Dames speaking this evening on the decision by the Public Hospitals Authority to have police officers in the interim drive ambulances to emergency scenes on family islands and eventually perhaps even explore that thought being done here in New Providence. You heard that part? You saw that part, yeah. So
nothing surprises me anymore.
We hope to obviously continue to follow the story and get more information on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Dames, for joining me this evening. This is Beyond the Headlines. We're just getting started. Don't go anywhere. We're back right after this.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Call now to get more of the care you need.
Welcome to Blissful Escapes, where luxury meets affordability. Whether you're seeking relief from aches and pains or simply looking to indulge in some well-deserved pampering, relax and detox in our infrared sauna. Enjoy a soothing Swedish massage or an invigorating exfoliating body scrub. We also provide advanced facial treatments using cutting-edge technology, including hydrofacial, microneedling, and microcurrent therapies, located at the shops of Cable Beach Plaza.
Security Depot makes shopping in the Bahamas easy. Shop the latest appliances, electronics, furniture, gadgets, toys, and so much more on our website, securitydepot242.com. See an item you like? Simply click on it, move to cart, and check out with the option of in-store pickup or home delivery. Endless possibilities are at securitydepot242.com.
Celebrate the incredible women in your life this Mother's Day, and don't forget the special offer from Cornet Bahamas. From April 16th to May 16th, enjoy a fantastic 35% off store-wide. That's right, everything you need to show your love and appreciation is on sale. Whether it's a heartfelt gift for mom, a treat for yourself, or something special for that amazing woman in your life, we've got you covered. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Visit any one of our stores today. Make this Mother's Day unforgettable with Cornet Bahamas.
Keep the Vibe Alive Music Group presents the Legends of Rake Spray. Get ready for the biggest names in Bahamian music live on stage. KB, Funky D, Chino D, D-Ma, Sweet Emily, Simeon Alton, Veronica Bishop, and more like the Singing Bishop. Mark your calendars for Saturday, May 10th at the Farm, Marshall Road. Gates open at 6 p.m. General admission 80, VIP 120. Tickets available at Missouri, Bookie Brand at the Beauty Shack, both locations. Skyboxes and Skypod. Call ESC Distributors at 394-0819. Or email keepthevibealive242@gmail.com. Saturday, May 10th. Come by boat and play and experience the Legends of Rake and Scrape. Brought to you by Keep the Vibe Alive Music Group, ESC Distributors, Missouri, The Plug, The Beauty Shack, Homicide, Bookie Brand, and Caribbean Wines and Spirits.
If you enjoy watching Beyond the Headlines, take advantage of our exclusive offers with 4 15-minute interview segments at $1,200 and 20 30-second TV ads at $2,000. Contact 557-0258 or 557-0259 for more information. Go beyond with Beyond the Headlines.
This segment of Beyond the Headlines is brought to you by EV Motors. Drive the future with brand new 2024 electric vehicles. EV Motors, powering your journey.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you join us. Thank you so much for staying exactly where you are. We are now going to join some residents in Mayaguana who today, if you were paying attention, you saw the Mayaguana Chief Counselor Vincent Murphy speak about the state of neglect of Mayaguana in particular. That island is a part of the Maikal constituency. Murphy says that the neglect is widespread in Mayaguana. He talked about the airport, healthcare, roads, education, public dock, and many more areas in Mayaguana that are in need of attention, not just now, not just this year or in this term, but for years. He says the residents of Mayaguana have been neglected. Well, we are joined by a group of residents, including Tika Lightborn and I think Iris DePass and another individual, I'll meet you in a moment, who is saying, who yesterday, in fact, Justin, if you could pull up that video, yesterday this group went and took it upon themselves to pave the road, well, actually fill in some potholes, not for the first time. They have done this before. They went and they took, by the way, you know what? Let me not tell the story. Let me let you all tell it. Good evening. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. It's great to have you all tune in and join us.
Good evening. Good evening, Shanique.
Hi.
Happy to be here.
Well, thank you very much for being here and talking about this. I saw your chief counselor speak out, very, very vocal, didn't mince any words about the state of neglect in Mayaguana in particular. I see this video that is on the screen. Please describe for us, before you respond to or perhaps further expand on what he said, Vincent Murphy, please explain what took place yesterday on the streets of Mayaguana.
Okay, Shanique, we've been agitating for quite a while, trying to get assistance with patching of roads, etc. in Mayaguana. And we just decided to take matters into our own hands and begin the works ourselves. Ms. Deepa, she can speak to the fact that we received some pole patch. I think it came in from the Ministry of Works, correct me if I'm wrong. And we've been using that coal patch ourselves and going, traversing the island and patching the holes in the road.
Now, the residents have had to do this?
Yes, ma'am. Volunteers, basically.
Volunteers. Mr. Pass, explain how you all took it upon yourselves to do it, because I'm sure the material was not sent for you all to do this yourselves.
Well, Shanique, as you know from last year, we had started patching the roads in Mayaguana, and the effort has been ongoing. The community has been coming out and helping with the road effort on a almost monthly basis. We've been out patching the holes in our roads that are getting worse and worse because of the neglect of this island. And so the effort is ongoing. And so when we got those coal patches about maybe 2 or 3 mailboats ago, we welcomed them because we were getting promises that we'd get cement. And when we saw the coal patches come in, we just took it upon ourselves to get on the roads and put them in the holes instead of waiting on whoever to come in while our vehicles are being damaged all the time. And so that's what we did as a community. And persons from the various settlements, from Abrams Bay, Partsville, and Betsy Bay, we have formed teams to get out in each settlement and patch the roads as best as we could with whatever it is that we have. And so we are thankful for the coal patches that came, and we have put them to good use, as you can see.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, congratulations to you and everyone else for doing a good job and stepping up to bring relief to your area. How widespread are the bad roads, or is the bad road?
Well, some areas, Shanique, I think it's beyond our efforts, actually. I think it'll take a lot more work in some of the main thoroughfares. But like I said, we've started within the communities to try and bring some easement to drivers on the island.
Let's talk about, sir, can you introduce yourself, please, and talk about how vehicles have been impacted. I remember last year you all had a similar thing where residents came together to perform work. You did again yesterday. Can you talk about, introduce yourself and talk about how vehicles have been impacted so far?
Good evening, Shanique. My name is Adario Brooks. I was actually on your show last year when we were doing the first set of work, we spoke. Honestly, we've made a lot of, we've made some progress. And then again, what we just did last week, like Ms. Lightburn and Ms. Charlton said, because the damage is so widespread, we have decided instead of trying to deal with the large areas, we just want to work within the communities to try and make it at least better for us and more manageable, because some areas are really well beyond our reach. And even though it's volunteer work, it's a good number of us that does it. It could be more, but what we work with, who we work with, we make it happen. And leave it up to me. I'll just use them all. I'll make it up by myself if I have to, because I've been doing it for so long. It's like a hobby to me now. It's not even a big deal to me, because a lot of persons do feel the impact of the holes in the road. I can tell you.
Yes.
Is there no two ways around the holes in the road, because they're there. You're not going to avoid them unless you ride on the edge of the road. And to me, what's the point of having the road if you can't ride on the road instead of riding off the road? So we're making progress slowly. If we had more parts, we would have done way more work. But even though it's a little bit, at least on my part, I'm grateful. I make it happen because it has to be done. We can't sit around and wait to see who's going to come and do the work for us. No.
Yes.
We don't have the luxury anymore
right.
of waiting to see who is going to do the work. When if it's here, it can be done. If I'm able, I'm going to do it. You should make noise about not doing it, because at the end of the day, I live here. I know we go through on a daily basis. So I'm not going to sit around with my hands crossed and my legs crossed and see if anyone's going to come today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. The longer you wait, the greater the problem becomes. So we just do it while we have the chance to do it. And I'm one of the persons that will do it.
It's very commendable of you, and from last year that we spoke, and the other ladies who too worked last year on those the road projects and patching of the roads. But let's shift for a little bit and look at what your Chief Counsellor Vincent Murphy said today in another media. He said that it's just an overall state of neglect in Mayaguana. Now, why he refused to join me this evening after speaking out elsewhere is another matter. But what is that state of neglect that you can describe and experience on a daily basis?
Well, it's just everything. It's just everything.
The neglect is so great that all three of us want to speak on it at the same time. So clearly, there's a serious level of neglect. For me, it's like we're here, and we're not remembered until we're remembered. That's it. We're not remembered until we're remembered, or until we are needed.
When was needed in quotes? When was the last time Mayaguana received any attention?
Yeah, the last time. Yeah, the last time.
Yeah, I won't even say at the last election, because last elections a lot of promises were made and none were kept.
And the one before that?
Same thing. The same thing. We have been waiting.
We're still on the last time.
Yeah, we have been waiting forever to see some changes. In fact, for over 15 years, we've been given promises and promises. I'm sure it's beyond 15 years.
And
promises and promises.
And so about for 2 decades, this is just how the infrastructure of Mayaguana have deteriorated to where it is right now.
Yes,
exactly.
Now, I know that even though Chief Counsellor Murphy talked about the airport, there is good news there, isn't there? There's a group there that's making something happen to bring about a new airport.
Yes. The DI group is came to our rescue and they began to close in a portion of the existing terminal building that they started some years ago, so that we have decent facilities to actually use on plane day.
Yes, well, I mean, that's the one sort of light at the end of the tunnel, that single rainbow.
It is indeed.
Yes. Listen, I thank you all very much. Tika Lightborn, Aris De Paz, and can you please give me your name once again, please?
Mr. Brooks, Terry Brooks.
Terry Brooks, thank you as well. Thank the three of you. Good work for trying to bring some sort of ease on the streets of Mayaguana, that you all have led the effort in patching the holes and not waiting around for any other official to come and get it done, or work teams. You all have done that and continue to step in. I mean, you shared that right here last year on this show, and I thank you for sharing once again. But you know, if the point is though, you all want to just draw really to the point and bring attention to the state of neglect, as your chief counselor said, of Mayaguana, and you want that to really be given some real meaningful attention. And so thank you very much for speaking with me this evening.
Thank
you for having us.
Absolutely. Have a great evening, you all. Residents of Mayaguana speaking here on Beyond the Headlines, talking about just, again, the state of neglect, the words of the chief counselor of Mayaguana. We obviously continue to follow up with them and speak with them whenever there's an issue, just to hear what it is that they have to say, or when they have good news to share as well. And we will continue to do that right here on Beyond the Headlines. Well, don't go anywhere, because when we come back, an early morning shooting resulted in the death of a young man in the eastern portion of New Providence. We talk about that after this.
The internet isn't just for surfing. There's a sea of shoppers buying online, and you can connect with them on Tingsy. Tingsy is the SBDC's online storefront built for Bahamians. Take your business to the next level by selling to customers online, both at home and around the world. People want Bahamian things, and if you got things to sell, sell on Tingsy. Find out how you can connect with a sea of buyers by visiting tingsybahamas.com.
So my name is Dr. Sophia Roll. I'm the resident artist for the Via Hamea Art House and Gallery. This is not something that I've gone to school for, if you will. I'm a professor. I recently got into art in 2015 because it was something that I always wanted to do. I saw something about fluid art, the abstract expressionism of fluid art really drew me. And so I'm always thinking now about art. I see the world through art. So that is, for me, very, very gratifying, very, very satisfying. So receiving the Women's Initiative grant really impacted the business because it allowed me to see in that I could have taken my craft, my art, outside of the gallery walls and really maximizing on some of the training, some of the skills that we learned. The advice that I would give to not only women, but anyone who's interested in starting a small business or starting a business is to just get started. You have to take the first step. And if you take the first step, you'd be amazed at how far you can continue to walk in that space.
For more information about how the SBDC can help your small business to make a big impact, give us a call at 461-7232 or visit sbdcbahamas.com.
Take sports seriously. Get ready to experience the thrill of winning anytime and any place. Bet in real time and live the thrill of every play while watching your winnings stack up. It's your chance to score big with fast payouts and a world-class experience. Get in the game and bet the Bahamian way with Island Luck Sportsbook.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
If you enjoy watching Beyond the Headlines, take advantage of our exclusive offers with 4 15-minute interview segments at $1,200 and 20 30-second TV ads at $2,000. Contact 557-0258 or 557-0259 for more information. Go beyond with Beyond the Headlines.
This segment of Beyond the Headlines is brought to you by the Legends of Rake and Scrape, May 10th at The Farm, Marshall Road.
Well, a family left shattered, a promising life cut short, and a community now grappling with yet another senseless killing. The country's latest homicide has claimed the life of a young man whose future, according to loved ones, was just beginning to unfold. Tonight, they're left to pick up the pieces and search for meaning in a loss that came without warning. Linton Ritchie Jr. spoke exclusively with the family today.
A shirt covered in dirt and bloodstains lies just steps away from the front porch of Kenneth Main's home in the Yamacraw area. The 32-year-old was shot at the break of dawn, moments before he was set to leave for work. Shortly after confirmation of his death at hospital, his family spoke exclusively with Eyewitness News. And for them, today marks a dark ending and a grim beginning.
This will not go or sweep nowhere. This is going to come to light.
Speaking on the basis of anonymity, a woman who considered Bain to be like a son stood near the pool of blood now covered by sand and recalled the moment tragedy struck.
As they came outside, I heard gunshots, and I knew something wasn't right.
With a promising career in the aviation industry and fresh off a recent promotion, the woman says their family feels robbed.
Good, very decent, respectable young man. And I know people always say, oh, they say my good son. No, that's my good son.
Bain family says this is his vehicle that he would take to go to and from work, a frequent route for the young man. And as it sits here in front of the family's yard, the bottom of it is marked with bloodstains and there's one bullet hole in the door. And for them, they say it's a horrifying memory that they can't seem to shake.
I was so surprised when I heard those shots. When I came out, he was actually standing and then he dropped. And I just ran back.
Loved ones say their biggest regret is not taking Bain to the hospital themselves. They claim EMS took more than half an hour to arrive, minutes they believe could have been the difference between life and death. And for the man behind the mask and the hand on the trigger.
And whoever did it, oh Lord, pray for forgiveness. Pray for forgiveness. Because what you did, you know, wasn't right.
With several security cameras visible in the area, Bain's family is now hoping that footage can help police connect the pieces and bring his killer to justice. Linton Ritchie Jr., Eyewitness News.
Well, quite senseless. I'm going to get just response really from the Hot Topics panel. Joining me this evening is Leslie Miller and Michael Turnquest. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you. It's good to have you both here. Your reaction to the story we just saw?
You know, Shanique, it's unfortunate. You know, my condolences go to the family, in this, this time of grievance. But, we always have to ask, where is conflict resolution? This is the second incident in terms of gun violence in the last, 2 days.
That's 20 days.
Where, things like this could be resolved through, conversation, whatever it might be. The incident on Awaki, we have to teach our young men how to resolve conflict by whether conversation or something. Something has to change. Either we have to put stiffer penalties in place for these so-called, these killers, we call them, and really, something has to be done because these guys seem as though they have no remorse, they have no care of life. It's like we're living in the world of like a zoo. Just full of animals. Something has to change. Whether it be, the judicial system has to change. Whether it be the death penalty. I think the police can only do so much in terms of react and do those roadblocks and things, trying to get guns off the streets. But why is it that we have killers or attempted murderers? They go on every day. You see them on bail. Whether it be for $4,000 or $5,000, they're back out on the streets. We have to fix the system. We have to fix the system. We have to fix the system. If not, this is just going to be a recurring thing, whereas though these guys just feel as though, I'm out for 3-4 years because, trial after trial is being pushed, the can being kicked down the road. Something has to change.
Another night, 2 for the last 3 days. Families are mourning the loss of a loved one. When is it going to stop? Who's going to stand to the plate and stop these vicious, heinous crimes? The police isn't the answer. Police can't be everywhere at every time. You can't say the police isn't doing their job. They're doing their job. A man has to think wrong before he does wrong. Whoever killed this man had committed themselves that they were going to take his life. And they did so. The question is, what are we going to do as a society? We're going to continue to let these murders go on and on and on and on with bringing the death penalty back to show that we are very serious about one who has lost a life in these tragic incidents. I trust that someone, or in fact, all the members of Parliament would one day step to the plate and correct this wrong that is being perpetrated on our people almost on a daily basis. I want to give my respect to his family and may his soul rest in peace.
I tell you, gentlemen, get this. Deputy Commissioner of Police Anthony Roll was held at gunpoint and robbed last night after being confronted by, roll the teleprompter. How about that? The TP right there. 2 armed men using an ATM on John F. Kennedy Drive. The incident unfolded shortly after 8 o'clock last evening. According to police, Roll was off duty and dressed in civilian clothing at the time and was carrying out a personal transaction when 2 masked men approached him with guns drawn. There is Roll on the screen. The suspects robbed the Deputy Commissioner of Police of cash and personal items before fleeing the scene in an unknown direction. Authorities say the gunmen were unaware of Roll's identity and praised him for his discipline, calm response in what could have turned deadly. The Royal Bahamas Police Force is now appealing to the public for assistance as they continue their investigation. Gentlemen, of course, the suspects had no idea who he was, but the Deputy Commissioner of Police being robbed. Your thoughts about just hearing that?
Shanique, we just, Mr. Miller, we talk about the judicial system and what needs to change, and this is a wake-up call. Whereas though, because we have generations that we've lost. Whereas though young men don't want to work, they don't want to go out and earn an honest dollar. We have to wake up as a society, like Mr. Miller said, and really enforce our laws. And then the laws are on the book. The laws are there. We need I don't make examples, but we should have been doing this, decades ago. We can't continue to let a small grouping of young men just ruin our society. It's unfortunate that it happened to the Deputy Commissioner, but this is something that happens to citizens on a regular basis.
Regular people.
Armed robberies. You name it. These young men they just don't want to go there, and we wonder why women are just taking over society. This is why, because young men just want to stay out on the streets, they want to hang out on the blocks, they want to do things like what you see here doing, whether it be killings or robberies, things of that sort. We need to enforce the laws. We have to do it.
First and foremost, we need to thank God for saving the life of our Deputy Commissioner. And I want to thank those who didn't take his life. It happened to me one time. Fellas came and robbed me. 2 men with pistols. The payroll, and we were billing Mario's. Took about $26,000. And I thanked them for not taking my life. And I was criticized by the media and by members of Parliament where I was, that why would you thank the robbers for robbing you? I said, I thank them for not taking my life, because at that instant they had the power to take our Deputy Commissioner's life. They didn't. So I just want to say thank you for not taking his life, and see if we can do a little better and stop doing these things. Because
were you a parliamentarian at that time, Leslie?
I think I was.
Shanique, I was as a young man growing up, in a family-owned business, running liquor stores. I've been robbed many times. Mm-hmm. And one thing what people do not realize, the person behind that trigger holding, and you have to realize the amount of pressure that's only needed to and a person trembling who is scared actually committing that crime. They're more scared than some of the people who are actually being held at gunpoint.
Mike, I'm glad you brought it. And you know what saved me? He and I kept talking. He said, Mr. Miller, I don't want to kill you. Just give me the money. They followed me from the bank there. And I guess I was going every Friday to pick up this payroll. We were just in the middle of doing my salary, but $28,000 a week for the payroll. And I remember watching a TV movie. They said, if you keep talking to the fella who has the gun, you're going to put him at ease. So I said, my brother, here's the payroll, man. Don't worry, just don't take my life, please. But yeah, I give it to him.
I had a young man on a Sunday morning, just first day back from first year in college, came back, put a .38 revolver in my mouth.
What?
As I was opening the store. The young man was one of my good friends from grade 7.
What?
He had just robbed Esso on Wolf Road, where Cartwright's, had a .38 revolver in my mouth. And that gun was crackling on my teeth, the way his hand was shaking.
Gotta thank God every day, man.
And, I thank God. And, the young man, and believe it or not, the young man came out of prison some 4 years later, came right back in our store and asked me to buy him a Guinness.
The same guy?
The same guy. And I bought and I purchased that Guinness because I said, you know something? The same way he could have taken my life.
I thanked him. And in the year, both of them died. One went down to city market, which was on Hard Road, open. And he tried robbing the guy. The manager killed him.
Brighton on Bay Street. Robbed Sunday morning. I went a Sunday morning to Brighton on Bay Street, and a masked gunman ran inside the store and took watches and robbed me
3 times. 3 times.
But this is where...
I got held up one night.
Gentlemen?
It's a normal thing. Thank God I'm still here.
Speaking of under fire, I don't know if maybe it's a bad segue, but a member of Parliament, Wade Watson, is under fire and is dismissing what he calls a deliberate attempt to smear his name after damaging claims surfaced on social media. Tonight, he's breaking his silence, rejecting the allegations as politically motivated and dangerously defamatory. Here's that story.
Member of Parliament Wade Watson, who has represented the Bain and Grandstown constituency since 2021, is dismissing allegations, some of what points to family life and alleged criminal activity, surfacing on social media. The posts, primarily circulating on Facebook, he says, are a part of a deliberate campaign to discredit him.
Uncalculated attack has been made on my name and my character. The nasty and vile comments are not only false, but malicious and defamatory.
Watson is now calling for greater responsibility in how public figures are discussed online, warning that the spread of misinformation can have serious, far-reaching consequences.
I have a family and they're not, they have to work in corporate Bahamas every day. And people know who they are. And they have to answer to these questions and have to face people on a daily basis. So from a professional standpoint, I'll continue to work politically as well.
Known in his community for faith-based initiatives and youth mentorship, Watson says his life and service have been grounded in integrity.
I've served with distinction on the Royal Bahamas Police Force for 11 years. I've coached boys and girls in primary, junior, senior high schools, and night leagues for more than 39 years in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I've been a full-time lecturer at the University of the Bahamas for 4 years. Never once has my character or behavior been called into question.
Despite the noise online, Watson says he remains focused on his constituency and won't be distracted by what he describes as a desperate attempt to derail his work and the agenda of the Progressive Liberal Party. His comments come at a time when public figures in the country are increasingly forced to navigate a landscape of both legitimate criticism and viral misinformation. Delano Roker, Eyewitness News.
All of them.
Well, I mean, gentlemen, I'd say this. I have not heard what it is that he's even defending. First time I'm hearing about it just before we came on air. And the thing is, I don't know sometimes if a public figure should respond to every social media post or smear. I mean, your thoughts, guys?
Shanique, it's unfortunate, but it is the society that we live in today, but like you say, not everything is warranted in terms of response. At the end of the day, I think if such a thing was true, you would see the police knocking at persons' doors in terms of, where they'd be investigating. So, like I said, it's unfortunate, and he is, I guess, a public figure, but sometimes it's not, some things are not warranted in terms of responding to everything, that people put out there. Social media is so vindictive. We have AI and everything that's going on now in social media. It's like I say, it's the times that we live in.
You bet right, because even the Prime Minister tonight had to come and respond. I don't know why he did, because anybody with any inkling could see that
I listened to that and I said, whoever, I don't even know it was AI, because it sounded like AI was just trying to learn English.
Exactly, that. So, and AI had an accent. So the Prime Minister in AI is telling people to invest, I forgot how much amount of money.
I don't know, it's 5,000 or something.
And get about 8,000 plus every month. And come on, OPM is no reason, because we all know now the sort of what to look out for. Meanwhile, though, gentlemen, Wade Watson, who has represented the Maine and Grantstown constituency since, of course, this administration was elected, says he is in it for the long haul. Despite recent online controversy, Watson says that his focus has never shifted from the people he serves, and he's vowing to run for re-election and will continue what he calls a mission of service, reform, and community upliftment. You think that he needed to say that now? Like, let this move, then come and say at a later date, listen, he is seeking a nomination to be the incumbent representing.
I saw some. I even forgot. Wade Watson was in politics. I think he's kept really under the radar. But at the end of the day, we've seen in this administration, in terms of what has happened, and persons have gone to court, and what have and persons, no matter what they've actually been. I wouldn't say it was found innocent, but persons dragged through court. He's just going through a little social media, back and forth, and maybe it's just a kind of wake up call that, hey, remember, you're still in politics,
Right.
So I don't see why, and others have done even worse. I'm not saying that he's done something, but they've actually went to court, fighting a battle, So at the end of the day, like I said, not everything is warranted a response, especially when social media is the way it is these days.
I'm really surprised and shocked. I was at his branch meeting last night. I'm along with Minister Warren Miller, and a few other MPs, and I might find it to be a very nice, humble young man. I worked with him during the election campaign and continue to work with him. He's a very hard worker. He loves the people. Since he was born there, and he intends to continue. I intend to assist him as best as I can, all of us, Dave and myself, along with the team. You got to realize, man, that when these people come after you, whatever garbage they come with, you have to accept it and brush it off. You can't answer everyone who comes with some charges, because, these people try to build up themselves at your expense. Just leave it alone. Let them prove what they say. But to go and answer them is to uplift them and put yourself in harm's way. Suggest that you don't do that again. Just leave it alone.
I mean, that's actually not until the response, I think it was a response that he made. I never knew. I had no idea.
I had no idea about it.
I had no idea.
I'll tell you all, Bahamian politicians, what you all really need. You all need professional handlers and
public relations
arm of what you're all doing. Because you all think you all know so much, and you don't. You just keep putting your foot in your mouth and speaking when you don't need to speak. And so learn your lesson. This is Wade Watson, learn your lesson.
Come after you.
Sinead, do you have a consultancy firm?
I have a consultancy firm. I said it on air. I don't care. No, I don't. But hey, listen.
I haven't moved for free,
Yes, for free, absolutely. But that's a bit of that advice is free. That advice. Stop that. Have someone do that. A professional. Yeah. But listen, gentlemen.
Public relations.
Gentlemen, I thank you both very much. Leslie Miller, Michael Turnquest, of course, at the top of tonight's show, former Deputy Commissioner of Police and Minister of National Security Marvin Dames, and the residents of Mayaguana as well, joining us this evening, and of course the Hot Topics panelists in the person of Leslie and Michael. Thank you. And I want to thank all of you this evening. Really awesome having you along, and I look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.